I'm streaming because I feel like I got to. I feel obligated to have a good time on this Christmas. Kappa. But I'm streaming because I feel like I got to. But I see some people I'd rather watch on actually. It doesn't usually happen around this time of day. But that makes things difficult, I suppose. I don't know. Follow Gravity's doing Heroes of the Storm. IISALAD. What is I call is Zalad. Zalad. I think it's I Salad. I think. But he's doing Kingdom Hearts 2 any percent, which is I'm not. I hate Kingdom Hearts actually, but he's such a nice guy, such a good streamer, and he does a lot of like interesting, cool speed runs. Always a good time up in there. So it's like, I mean, not to hate on any of the other people who are streaming. Um, those two kind of stand out. So, Verdun. And somebody's playing a game called Verdun, which I've never heard of, but it looks like it's a World War II first-person shooter, which I'm a big fan of Battlefield 1940. Battle of Verdun, yeah. What? I'm a big fan of Battlefield 1918, a hack, or not a hack, a mod for Battlefield 1942. Now, those who don't know their history that well, Battlefield 1942 was the first in the series which would become the now major competitor to Call of Duty. Strange. They both started as World War II games. Interestingly enough, it's on Congregate too, as well as their own website. But I don't see a Wikipedia page for the game, so I suppose it's not like a major big time deal. Could just host iSalad. Just watch iSalad. Two players streaming. You know, 13.79 on, or well, it's 22.99 on in U.S. dollars on Steam. Is there another way to buy it though? Cause I mean, shit. There's a reason I don't have any newer games. It's because they're all only on Steam, and even if you buy the box, you gotta go on Steam anyways. Fuck. I figured it would be free, like free to play sort of thing, because it's a World War One. Not exactly the world's largest market. You know what I mean? I think my unregistered viewer, whose name starts with M, might be watching. Busting a nut. If you're one of my other friends on Facebook or whatever, and you're an unregistered viewer right now, unregistered viewer is the hypeless guy in the room. So, big shout outs to the unregistered viewer. We appreciate it here at Shalashaska. It looks gorgeous. I mean, it looks pretty good. Um, looks really good. I don't know. We're doing. We're done. Could be good. I'll go ahead and just go out on a limb and recommend it just as a curio. Like it's hard to ignore a World War One game of significant quality. Do I have my hard drives? No, they're out in the cold. Could go get my hard drives and play Battlefield 1942 off a hard drive. Hmm. Schlacht um Verdun was fought from February 12th to December 18th, 1916, during the First World War on the Western Front between the German and French armies on hills north of Verdun sur Meuse. How the fuck do you pronounce French? Okay. In northeastern France. The German Fifth Army attacked the defenses of the region fortifié de Verdun and those of the Second Army garrisons on the right bank of the Meuse, whatever. Intended to rapidly capture the Côte du Meuse. How many times are you gonna make me mispronounce this? From which Verdun could be overlooked and bombarded with observed artillery fire. The German strategy intended to provoke the French into counterattacks and counteroffensives to drive the Germans off the heights. Solid strategy. You don't see too much in StarCraft 2. For the Battle of the French Revolution, see Battle of Verdun. French attacks would be relatively easy to repel with massed artillery fire from the large number of medium, heavy, and super heavy guns brought into the area and supplied with large amounts of ammunition on excellent pre-war railways, which were within 24 kilometers of the front line. The German strategy assumed that the French would attempt to hold on to the east bank of the Meuse, whatever, fuck shit. Then commit the French strategic. I was looking for one of those audio blips that could say the word, but I don't see one. Then commit the French strategic reserve to recapture it and suffer catastrophic losses from the German artillery fire, while the German infantry held positions easy to defend and suffered fewer losses. The German plan was based on the experience of the battle in the Champagne in 1915. After early success, the French offensive was defeated with far more French than German casualties. Poor weather delayed the beginning of the German offensive until February 21st. French construction of defensive lines and arrival of reinforcements for the opening attack were able to delay the German advance despite many losses. 20 and a half French divisions on March 6 were in the RFV, and a defense in depth had been established. Defense in depth must be a trench warfare term. I've never heard it. Pétain ordered that it doesn't even say that Pétain was the general. Jesus. Philippe Pétain. Again, I don't speak French. Ordered that no withdrawals were to be made and that counterattacks were to be conducted, despite exposing French infantry to fire from the German artillery massed in their area. By March 29th, French artillery on the West Bank had begun a constant bombardment of German positions on the East Bank, which caused many German infantry casualties. This is a very detailed description. Okay, Okay, so basically what happened is the French counter-artillery forced them out of their strat, and then they were pushed back when the Germans attempted attacks. And then switching strats a couple of times, the Germans had some success, but because of the Battle of the Somme, they had to basically kind of just hold it down and it doesn't say who won per se, but the kind of thing with World War One is, it's hard. Really there wasn't really a lot of battlefield victories, But who won the battle, anyways, is debatable. French victory. It sounded as such, but they lost more or less the same number of people. So, although it appears the French lost 10,000 more, and that seems like a lot, but in World War One terms, it's not really that crazy. Not enough to swing. And strangely, the Revolutionary War article of Battle of Verdun kind of sparse. There's yet another battle that has no article for it, and that's in the Franco-Prussian War. I will say this. I'll say one thing before I just end the stream and start watching something else. Um, I'll come back later and do it. Shit, I forgot what the fuck I was gonna say. That during the opening years of the what is called the War on Terror, but what is essentially the Afghanistan War and the Iraq War, I heard a lot of criticism of Islamic history as being violent. In fact, that is far from the truth. The Islamic peoples got along with the Jews and everything like that for a very long time. They had democratic Republican governments where everybody worked together. There was no racial tensions. There was very few wars. Islamic people were very peaceful. It was the Europeans that have an extremely bloody history. I mean, we're talking there's a war going on between any two countries at all times. And not only that, but they're not just one, not just two, not just three wars going on. The Crusades were a bloody engagement, sure, but we all know who the aggressor was in that, and sure as hell wasn't the Muslims invading Italy. Truth is, hmm? Truth is, in fact, the Muslim people did actually become very warlike, and I'll tell you when it happened. It was when the British started to colonize that area and redraft random territories, and it created a lot of tension between groups which had previously gotten along, but now were hodgepodge together in strange countries where a minority religious group suddenly has no power, and the power sort of fell into a religious group which did not actually dominate the area where the minority lived. They were like clumped together in little townships and stuff, but all of a sudden now the Shiites control this large territory with the Kurds way up in the top. That would be Iraq. And the end result of that kind of strange division and also being occupied by a foreign power, the British and other colonists, the ultimate result of all of that is the sort of thing that Saddam did, where, killing Kurds en masse. Kurdistan is still not a country. I don't think it is. It wasn't a couple years ago. And although they need to have their own country, Kurdistan needs to be its own country. Traditionally was until the territories were redrafted completely randomly. Um, and once again, you can criticize people for being violent all you want. It's perfectly true that they should have just turned the other cheek, not killed each other, not killed other people. Be pushovers like everybody says I shouldn't be. But at the end of the day, they weren't that way until the Europeans did some things. It's just the facts. So ultimately, the blame in its origin of blame, that is, whose action preceded all other problems, it was in fact the Europeans. It was in fact not the Muslims. Now you might be wondering, Sam, is you a Muslim? No. You're white. Why don't you stick up for your white people? Don't you love America? All that shit. You know, I'm sure somebody out there is gonna say it or think it. Truth be told, it's not really an issue like that. I'm not saying that it shouldn't have happened, and I'm not saying that the Europeans are the worst people in the world because it did happen. I'm just saying that facts is facts. What happened happened, and you can't just say, "Oh, it's all their fault," when it's not in the story. So, live in a fantasy land where your team is always on the right side, but guess what? That's not how it works, buddy. Live in a real world where blame goes around, comes around. End of story. Now I mentioned all that because I just happened to look at the articles and just see that there's no less than 3 battles of Verduns in European history. That's kind of a problem. Kind of a problem. And then again, Middle Eastern history pre-Islam was bloody. It's kind of why Islam rose to be what it is, but it's not Islam that's the contributing factor to that. That is really just everybody's been through wars and stuff. What makes it ironic is that when Islam is peace, the religion comes around, all that ends, and that area becomes somewhat stable. And if you're not a fan of Islam and you're a Christian, you should probably be aware that they um, have no. They are actually worshippers of Jesus. So they just they go in a different direction with it after that. It's it. They have one more book essentially. So don't trip too much until you know the facts. Then again, I'm pretty solid in the Christian realm, so it's not necessarily that I agree with that religious perspective. I just it's like it's splitting hairs to me as a religious person. Like which Jewish based religion is the most Jewish? It's like it's at that point you're splitting hairs. It's just how I feel about it. Like I'm not gonna trip because they like Muhammad and Jesus and Moses. They like one more guy than I do. I mean, they're just friendly people, open minded maybe. Who knows? I'm just saying I ain't gonna trip over it. I can't figure out what game to play. Maybe I should excuse me, go get that hard drive and play some old Battlefield 1942 mods. Like I really want to, but that situation is kind of complicated. I even think I uninstalled them off the hard drive, and there's no more hard drive space on the external hard drive, so I have to clear off my hard drive, one of the hard drives, to install the stuff back onto the hard drive because I'm out of hard drive. Um, shit. You know what else? I can't find. I don't think I even have a copy of it on any of the hard drives. I don't have. I know I don't have the disc anymore, but I had the Total War collection. I had Shogun Total War. I had Medieval Total War and Rome Total War. And all the expansion packs came in a big box set back then. This was before Medieval 2. Oh no, it had a demo for Medieval 2 on it. That's right. But it had the first 3 games in the series. Shogun, Medieval, and Rome. And Rome was pretty cool to play as the Spartans and using phalanx tactics and things like that because it covers a vast section of his. Rome Total War actually covers as much of history as the Roman Empire existed, which is it goes from one entirely different set of pre-medieval tactics, pre stone fortifications, things like that, all the way up to stone fortification type tactics, wheels and things like that. I mean, that's a vast amount of history. I mean, we're talking Egyptians, Greeks, all the way up to Ottoman Empire and the Gauls, and I mean, just a vast section of history. Oh, that's the expansion pack brings in the barbarians, if I'm not mistaken. Well, what is it? Two Rome Total War expansion packs? I can't remember. Not only that, but there was a very cool mod community for Rome Total War that it brought in all kinds of different time periods. But yeah, that's the main mod I had was it just rebalanced the game to be more historically accurate and less balanced. Essentially, like a Greek soldier in a phalanx formation can't stand up to Roman chariots. It's just not gonna happen. But in the game, it's more balanced to where those different units perform better when they really shouldn't. Um, oh yeah, that's right, Alexander. Alexander was one of the expansion packs to Rome Total War. Now that's baller shit. Playing as Alexander the Great and just playing as his sort of unified, just all kinds of different tactics. Elephants, all kinds of crazy stuff. Very interesting campaign. Alexander's campaign, very interesting. That movie sucked, but I didn't think it was bad though. People think. Medieval Total War was pretty cool. It expanded on the religious aspect of geopolitics that is briefly discussed in Shogun Total War, and that's only because the whole Gaijin thing. There's literally was two religions you could choose from in Shogun Total War for good reason. Converting to Christianity to get guns earlier on, or the Shintoist Buddhist thing. Which I don't know, maybe that's three, but it makes no difference. Christianity makes you at odds with everybody else, basically. Um, you get guns earlier, but you have to. You're now because you have a target on your head. Um, Shogun Total War is the Sengoku Jidai period of Japanese history, so it is the most interesting gameplay wise because basically we have like a bunch of factions that are like totally sanctioned to go to war with each other and no holds bars, no alliances, no politics. This is just war. Um, Total war. I was gonna do Capital War. Um, but it's older. I mean, it's really amazing. It still holds up gameplay wise. It's still historically accurate. There's not necessarily a better simulation of the Sengoku Jidai period in a real time strategy with the tactical thing and everything, the strategic map and everything. There's not a better way to do the game. It's just old, and you have to keep that in mind when you play it. It's legit. There's no like problems with how old it is. It's still there's no problem with the game. It doesn't have like tons of glitches. It's not unbalanced. It doesn't have like some kind of broken thing. Kensais are the coolest stuff. Gotta love the Kensai. I used to make a lot of like custom battles where it was 7 Kensai against like a large number and just basically do 7 samurai. But whatever. Um, it's very interesting. Shogun Total War. Medieval Total War was like it was good. It was cool. It had like a lot of cool stuff. The Crusades. I mean, like literally, it was a even larger section of history with even more interesting sort of different countries and how they approach warfare. Light infantry from the Muslims, armored cavalry from the Muslims against European heavy armored infantry, which we all know is knights and longbowmen. And I mean things like that. It's very interesting from not only from a gameplay perspective, but historically. There's a reason it's a good game because that kind of warfare it was extremely interesting. So medieval Total War. Now, frankly, I never actually got around to playing the sequels, but they basically, if I'm not mistaken, there's Napoleon Total War, but other than which is a nice touch. But other than that, I mean that section of history is equally as interesting, and hopefully it covers it up to the Civil War because basically Napoleon air combat goes from Napoleon up to Civil War. And although that's not as big of a section of history, well, it's larger than the Sengoku Jidai period, but although that's not as long as the Rome or the medieval eras that are discussed in those games, it is more dense. There's more wars and more styles of tactics and stuff like that. And basically, it just basically is the firearm era before mechanized warfare becomes a thing. So, very interesting. Theoretically, you could actually expand that point of history all the way to the Spanish-American War, but only because of the situation didn't allow for more of the mechanized warfare. So, but it was like it was well on its way. Repeating rifles, trains, heavy battleships, things like that were already in full service. But anyway, all that aside, I never did play. And I thought it was strange that they do it in reverse. They didn't go Rome to no it went no that's not right. It went medieval 2, then Rome 2, then Shogun 2. Shogun 2 was the only one I really cared about because Shogun is the good one. So. Having it like basically just like a remake is basically all that boils down to because that game is there's nothing to that like I explained. There's nothing to sequel it. It's a perfectly good game for the rest of history. But I suppose Shogun 2 and Rome 2, those are just like basically just remakes. So, I mean, same is true of a lot of games like that, Civilization and stuff like that. So. One could argue the same is true of StarCraft because StarCraft 2 functions in many of the same ways. But it's different enough to be a sequel. And that is definitely true of Rome 2. It's less true of Medieval 2. It's certainly true of Shogun 2. Shogun 2 has some very bizarre changes. And the coolest thing I saw with Shogun 2 was the expansion pack where you fight not arquebuses and muskets era of firearms, but it goes into the literally the end of Japanese isolationism when the Americans and the British and everybody comes in. And what makes that so interesting is because of their isolationism, although it is 400, 200 years later or whatever, even though firearms, armored cavalry, all that has been done to death in the West, this is after the Civil War, and it's still, its weaponry is the same. The samurai are using the same damn weapons they've been using for most of their, combat history anyways. And then all of a sudden, the West comes in with their high-tech shenanigans. And I'm just glad they. And if you've ever seen The Last Samurai, The Last Negro on Earth, starring Tom Hanks, I suppose, whatever. The Last Samurai starring Tom Cruise for whatever reason. That's a Paul Mooney joke, by the way. Okay. If you do ever see The Last Samurai, that's actually it's not necessarily true that Tom Cruise's character existed or not. It might be, or that's how it went down, which it didn't. It was a little bit more drawn out than that film explains it. The video game I was talking about, the Shogun 2 expansion pack, is I assume is gonna be more accurate to the length of the events. But unfortunately, that movie Last Samurai makes samurais not look as good as they are because when they break out that I forget what it's called, but a chain gun thing that fires the heavy balls, not like a chain gun that you're familiar with probably, but it fires a heavier lead round instead of I forget what it's called, but like a rifle round, piercing, But essentially, samurai actually did not just like get torn to shreds by that particular weapon. They fought smartly. They were able to combat it quite well. It was really just sheer numbers. The emperor says, "Lay down your swords." Most of them did, and the West brought in their guys to fight what was the last holdouts. Otherwise, samurais could have won. I mean, you might think a bow and arrow can't stand up to a gun, but in essence, it's the same damn weapon. Just is what it is though. And not only that, but the West wasn't exactly like at war with the samurai of Japan. It was a small supporting role, bringing in some new tech. So nobody really wanted to have that civil war at that time. So I just think it's interesting. I'm very glad that somebody covered it in a video game, and I'm glad that it was Total War, because Total War is probably my favorite strategy game of all time. I know I don't play it enough on stream, but it's a long, involved game, and I've played it to death 100 times. I also don't. Well, I own a copy. I just can't find it. Shit. I wouldn't mind. If that's the kind of thing I wouldn't mind Steam for, if they did package a big, like kind of like GOG does. I love GOG. GOG, like my favorite website ever. But even like way back in the day, they were even better. But now they're like really cool because they have newer games and older games, and they have all the same, customer friendly policies. No DRM. You don't have to have some stupid shit installed on your computer just to play the damn game. You don't have to fucking connect online just to make sure that you're sucking a corporate cock on time. Showing up to play video games on time. Doing what the man tells you. Like, no, I don't like any of that shit. So GOG is my way to go. But I don't know. That would be cool if they put all the Total War together in like the Total War Anthology is what it was called back then. So just call it Total War Anthology 2 and have all the old ones and all the new ones. And, they did 2 of everything else. Why not do Anthology 2? Which, by the way, let me briefly mention StarCraft 2 Battle Chest. Legacy of Void isn't out yet. Doesn't include the Prima strategy guides. It's not a battle chest, damn it, Blizzard. Am I that old that I don't know what you've been doing for 20 years now when you do a battle chest? You have all the games released for that series with the Prima strategy guides. That's a battle chest. Okay, you're just putting 2 games together. That's not a battle chest. And I'm not happy with you. Which raises the question: the World of Warcraft compilation isn't. It's World of Warcraft. I understand it's not really the same genre as the battle chest games, but Diablo had a battle chest. Why don't they? When they put all the World of Warcraft games together in that collection, why didn't they call it a battle chest? Kind of Blizzard's thing, That is all of the. They're not gonna release another World of Warcraft expansion, are they? There's no fucking way. God, that would be retarded. Yeah, they only got like 45 expansion packs. But the thing, if I'm not mistaken, you have to own. Jeez, you have to own the expansion packs that, in order to play the newest one, you have to own all the ones that have a level cap increase. I think that's how the system works. And it's complete ass bullshit. But essentially, it's all server side. So this expansion pack don't do nothing but give you access to the area or class system that people are playing on the server on. You don't actually need that stupid disc. But I don't actually mind that it is like a pretend disc, because I actually get a disc. That's a step up from your typical customer service you get nowadays, where they say, "Hey, you bought the game. Can I see it?" You don't need to see the game. Just trust us. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. Well, what if your servers go down? That don't happen. Don't worry about it, guy. Okay. What if my hard drive fails and your servers go down, and in 20 years I want to play it, but nobody has a copy of it because the only way to get to it is through you, and it's just been lost to time. You don't care about history, that you don't care that people might want to know about your game in the future. Nah, play in offline mode, but check in every now and then. Don't let me catch you not checking in. Okay, can you just put the game on a disc, please, and just let me, can I? It's kind of like when you go over to your friend's house and you're and you say, "Hey, can I look at that?" And he says, "Yeah, sure." and then you reach for it, and he says, "Look with your eyes, not with your hands." That's basically how the corporations are treating you now. You understand that, right? Let me just have a plastic disc. Jeez Louise. Other than, I don't understand though. They somehow fit 20 gigabytes of XCOM onto a single DVD, and then they fit StarCraft 2 onto a single DVD. So I know it's not that's not an issue per se. You just gotta finagle it to get it to work. But yeah, who knows? I understand that at one point that actually will be a problem when internet speeds are faster than a laser can scan a disk, and just the sheer volume of data at that point in history will make it almost impossible for a disk to operate. But then we'll actually start putting things back on cartridges. Can you believe that? Guarantee you there will be a point in the future where games are on cartridges again. Can you imagine? It'll happen. It'll happen. Assuming we don't all become digital only scum. And I hate that stupid art. Everybody always has the same argument for, like, they say, well, yes, those are all good points, but I don't care because I want to do it. Well, okay, I didn't ask you if you cared or not. I didn't ask you if you're what you're gonna. I'm not telling you to do what I say. I'm telling you that this is a problem. They say, well, yeah, well, it's not a problem because I don't care. That's not how the world works, buddy. Quit living in a fantasy land. So, I'll be back later. Stay safe. I gotta figure out what game to play. Stay safe. Have fun. Be excellent to one another. Party on, dudes. And wait. All I want for Christmas is food.